12 to 13 feet of snow. That's not a typo. That's what's coming for the Sierra Nevada mountains over the next 72 hours. But that's just the beginning. A fire hose of moisture is pointed directly at California, bringing up to 10 inches of rain to Los Angeles, life-threatening flash floods, and mudslides that could bury entire neighborhoods. In the next 25 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly where this monster storm hits hardest, which cities face the highest risk of catastrophic flooding, and why the Arctic blast following this could make New Year's Eve one of the coldest on record. Here's the shocking part: we're seeing 250 to 350% of normal moisture levels. That's unprecedented. Stay with me through the first 30 seconds, and I'll reveal which major cities are in the high-risk zone for flash flooding right now. And at minute 5, I'll give you the exact timeline for when the ice storm hits the Northeast, potentially leaving millions in darkness. But first, let me ask you something. When was the last time you heard about a high risk for life-threatening flash flooding in downtown Los Angeles on Christmas? This isn't typical California weather. This is a dangerous, historic event. Here's your first reward for staying with me. Right now, this Christmas Eve, very heavy rainfall is falling at rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour across downtown Los Angeles. The Sierra Nevada mountains are getting pounded with 2 to 4 inches of snow per hour. And this will continue basically uninterrupted all the way through Saturday morning. Now here's the twist that changes everything. This isn't just a California problem. All of that energy is going to move eastward into the eastern United States post-Christmas. Between Christmas and New Year's, we could see an eastern United States snowstorm and an eastern Canada snowstorm as well. Multiple regions are about to get hammered. Let me paint you a picture of what's happening off the West Coast. There's a strong low-pressure system offshore that's going to pummel portions of California with punishing rains and snows as we go into Christmas Day, and then the day after Christmas on Friday, December 26th. This is a relentless atmospheric river, a literal fire hose of moisture pointed at the coast. When meteorologists look at precipitable water anomalies, we're seeing purples and pinks on the maps. Those colors show that we are at 250 to 350% of normal. Let me put that in perspective. Normal is 100%. We're seeing 2.5 to 3.5 times the normal amount of moisture. That's an absolutely staggering amount of water vapor in the atmosphere. And that fire hose of moisture continues, including the downtown area of Los Angeles, going straight through Saturday morning before it starts to trickle down going into the weekend. We're talking about days of relentless precipitation. Now, mudslides are a very likely proposition here across the West because we're seeing so much rainfall. And so much rainfall in a short amount of time dramatically increases that mudslide risk and flash flooding risk. Think about burn scar areas from recent wildfires. No vegetation to hold the soil. When you dump inches of rain per hour on those hillsides, you get catastrophic debris flows. Here are the rainfall totals going through 7 a.m. on Saturday, December 27th, up to another 8 to 10 inches for the greater Los Angeles area, all the way up the coast of California. Even southwestern Oregon is getting another 2 to 4 inches of rainfall. In less than 48 hours, some areas could see a year's worth of rain. So here are the big cities in the mix, and pay close attention if you live in any of these areas: Santa Barbara, Oxnard, Santa Clarita, Palmdale, the greater Los Angeles region, Riverside, and just south of Victorville. That is where we potentially have more of that high risk for life-threatening flash flooding. Life-threatening. Those aren't my words. That's the National Weather Service designation. High risk means significant threat to life, and catastrophic damage is expected. This is the highest level of flood risk they can issue. Then we have that moderate risk in red from Santa Maria, Lompoc, all the way down to Long Beach, Anaheim, Santa Ana, all the way to Oceanside, and over toward Cathedral City in California. That is where significant flash flooding will be possible. Moderate risk still means widespread flooding impacts, road closures, potential evacuations. Then you move up toward Bakersfield. That's where we have a slight risk for flash flooding. A little bit lower of a threat, but slight risk is still a decent risk for flooding that extends even as far south as San Diego. This covers much of Southern California and California in general with flash flood risk. And here's something many people don't realize. This even extends over into the Las Vegas area and Nevada. So this is not just California. This is southern Nevada, northwestern Arizona, and southwestern Utah in the mix as well. The moisture is so widespread, it's affecting multiple states. Once we get to tomorrow on Christmas Day, Thursday, December 25th, we're seeing a moderate risk for significant flash flooding in similar areas from the Anaheim region into Los Angeles, Santa Clarita, all the way up toward Bakersfield. We'll keep a very close eye on that. Still a flooding threat as we go into Friday, December 26th. And then once we get to the weekend, notice the flooding threat shuts off, although some creeks, rivers, and streams may still be swollen with water as we go through the weekend. Now let me give you some critical safety information, and this could save your life. Never drive on a flooded roadway. Never. You don't know how much water is over the roadway, and if the roadway is washed out underneath, turn around, don't drown. It only takes 6 inches of moving water to knock you off your feet. It only takes 12 inches to carry away most vehicles. 2 feet of water can sweep away SUVs and trucks. Now, at minute 5, I promised you information about the northeast ice storm. So here it is. We're watching an ice storm threat from northeastern portions of Minnesota, near the Arrowhead, down into the northern portion of Wisconsin and through Michigan. This could produce potentially a light glaze up to a 1/4 inch of ice, which could make it very treacherous on those area roadways. A 1/4 inch of ice is significant. That's when you start seeing scattered power outages. Tree branches weighted down with ice start breaking, power lines start snapping, roads become skating rinks. Even walking becomes dangerous. Then the ice threat going into Friday night into Saturday morning will shift down into Pennsylvania, Maryland, and southern New Jersey. So we're watching big cities like Baltimore, Philly, down toward Trenton, and even Washington, D.C. could get some ice and some freezing rain where the colder air is a little bit deeper. Where it's cold enough, we're going to see snow in blue across New York State, including Buffalo, Watertown, Albany, New York City proper through Long Island, and all the way over into Hartford. And then that will continue into the weekend. Now, let me share something with you from Scripture that I think is profoundly relevant. In Psalm 147, verse 16 through 18, it says, "He gives snow like wool, he scatters frost like ashes. He hurls down his crystals of ice like crumbs. Who can stand before his cold? He sends out his word and melts them. He makes his wind blow and the waters flow." God is sovereign over the weather. He controls the snow, the ice, the floods. We can't control what he sends, but we can control how we prepare. And we can trust that even in the storm, he is with us. He is in control. Now, let's talk about the snow, because the numbers are absolutely staggering. Snowfall amounts could be up to 150 additional inches through 7 a.m. on Saturday, December 27th. That's 12 to 13 more feet of snow for the Sierra Nevada mountains. Let me repeat that, 12 to 13 feet. That's taller than most rooms in your house. That's enough to completely bury cars. That's enough to make mountain passes impassable for weeks. The Cascades in Washington State and Oregon are seeing a couple of feet. The Rockies into Idaho, western Montana, Wyoming, outside the Salt Lake City area, even western Colorado, a few feet of snow with the heaviest likely into Idaho near Boise. If that's not enough, we have some very strong wind gusts that will be moving on the west coast, including Northern California, before daybreak tomorrow on Christmas Day. Wind gusts up to 70-80 miles per hour, especially in the higher elevations. Those are hurricane-force winds. Combined with heavy snow, that creates whiteout conditions. Make sure you are driving with caution tomorrow if you do have to travel on Christmas Day. Better yet, if you can avoid travel in the higher elevations, do it. Stay home. The roads will still be there when the storm passes. Here's the visibility situation to give you an idea of the wind and snow component, especially in the higher elevations. Some of the passes up into the Sierra Nevadas, we're going to be seeing whiteout conditions literally almost uninterrupted through Friday afternoon. If you have to travel up in the higher elevations, please travel with caution. Put those snow chains and snow tires on because you're going to need them as you go up in elevation. And if anything, just avoid travel through the weekend in the higher elevations. It's just going to be really nasty out there. For the rest of the United States this evening, we're seeing a couple of snow showers, snow flurries across portions of the east, maybe the northeast, maybe more up in Ontario and Quebec. As we go into Christmas Day, maybe some snowfall to start the day in Maine. That will be possible. Another clipper system is moving through southern Canada, Saskatchewan, into Manitoba as we go into Christmas Day. That'll move into Ontario as we go into that night. These clipper systems are fast-moving but can still drop several inches of snow in a short time. And then a larger snowstorm may be possible, especially for Quebec. as we get closer toward the new year on the 30th of December. That could produce some very cold weather and also some wind-driven snow across those areas. Here's the snowfall that takes you through 7 a.m. on New Year's Day, Thursday, January 1st, 2026. A couple more feet of snow possible in southern Canada, especially favoring Ontario and Quebec. Decent snows into New York State, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan with that lake effect off of Lake Superior, and portions of Maine. Otherwise, it's again the mountains out west that see some very heavy snowfall. The Sierra Nevada just keeps getting pummeled, storm after storm after storm. Here's the wind as we see it in the central and eastern U.S. through New Year's Day. Some wind gusts into the northeast and southeastern Canada as that low pressure really winds up around the 29th and 30th of December, just before the New Year's holiday. We could potentially be seeing 40 to 50 mile-per-hour wind gusts going through that time frame. When you combine those wind speeds with snow and cold temperatures, you get dangerous wind chills. You get blowing and drifting snow. You get conditions where even short trips outside become hazardous. Now, let's talk about temperatures. And this is where things get really interesting. We're going to see very warm anomalies down in the United States. A big ridge of high pressure feeding southerly winds. We're going to be seeing potentially 35 to 40 degrees above normal temperature anomalies across much of the plains and into the Missouri Ozarks. But look up into Western Canada, into Yukon, British Columbia, Northwest Territories, Alberta, and even Saskatchewan. We are seeing some below normal temperature anomalies around 40 to 50 degrees below normal. That's Arctic air. Bitter, dangerous cold. And that cold air is going to make shots southward into the United States. One shot this weekend as we see it across portions of the Northeast and Quebec. We could be seeing a nice shot of some colder air that will feed into our winter storm. Then a bigger shot and more significant shot of cold air coming into the eastern U.S. just before the New Year holiday on the 29th and 30th of December, bringing us some Arctic air. Then a third shot, more potent for the Northeast, behind our third winter storm as we go into the New Year holiday. 3 waves of Arctic air, each one potentially colder than the last. Looking at Christmas Day, it's going to be a very warm one. Record highs are possible across the southern plains along the Gulf Coast, through Dixie Alley, even into the Carolinas. We're going to be in the orange and red on temperature maps. Those are 70 seconds, even some 80 seconds, including much of Texas from Wichita Falls to Dallas to Waco, all the way down to Brownsville and westward to Lubbock. It's going to be very warm down there. But look at the contrast. It's 80 seconds in Texas, but 80 below with temperatures and wind chills up in Greenland and much of Canada. Sub-zero with those wind chills going into Christmas Eve and Christmas Day as well. That's a temperature difference of 160 degrees from South Texas to northern Canada. That extreme temperature gradient is what fuels these powerful storm systems. Looking at the snowpack, as you would expect with warmer temperatures, it's going to melt a lot of our snow leading up to tomorrow morning. So if you want a white Christmas, you've got to go north into Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, and the New England region. Otherwise, you've got to go north into Canada, especially into British Columbia, Ontario, and Quebec. Even Newfoundland is seeing some very heavy snow on the ground right now. Going into New Year's Day itself, once the clock strikes midnight, we're going to see some wind-driven snow across portions of Ontario, including Toronto, up toward Montreal, and into portions of New England as well. That's going to import some colder air, some gusty winds with that. Be ready for that if you have any New Year's celebrations across the Great Lakes and into the Northeast. Very cold temperatures there at midnight. These are sub-zero wind chills that you see in the teal colors up into southeastern Canada. That is no joke. Make sure to bundle up if you're headed out for some New Year's celebrations, including the ball drop in New York City on midnight Thursday, January 1st, 2026. We could be seeing wind chills around 20 degrees, which is still pretty chilly. Make sure to bundle up in layers and start the car early if you're headed out to warm it up. For our older viewers, those 45 and above, I want to give you some specific cold weather safety advice. Hypothermia can set in faster than you think, especially for older adults. If you're going to be outside for New Year's celebrations, dress in layers. Wear a hat that covers your ears, wear gloves, wear a scarf over your nose and mouth, and please, don't overexert yourself in the cold. Heart attacks are more common in cold weather, especially when people are shoveling snow or walking in difficult conditions. Take it slow, take breaks, And if you feel any chest pain or shortness of breath, get inside and call for help immediately. Now let's look at January 2026, because the pattern we're setting up could dominate the entire month. We've got some big blocking up towards Scandinavia, maybe some blocking on either side of Greenland. That will usher in some colder air from the north as we go week by week into January. Here's week 1. I think the coldest of the air is still in Western Canada and up into Alaska, but we still see some mild trends with some cold shots possible. Week 2. Between the 8th and the 15th, it's really cold in Western Canada. I think the polar vortex will be back on our side of the hemisphere, and this will be giving us some trouble with cold air. When meteorologists talk about the polar vortex, we're talking about a large area of low pressure and cold air that normally sits over the poles. When it's strong and stable, it stays up north. But when it weakens or gets displaced, that Arctic air spills southward, and that's what we're expecting in mid-January. Then, as we go into week 3, the 15th through the 23rd, we're going to be seeing that colder air making shots down into the northern United States and eastern US, while the southwest is starting to warm up a little bit. And then as we go into the last week of January, the 23rd through the 31st, the colder air will reside in the east, with the west becoming a little bit milder. Also cold up in Alaska for the last week of January. How does that translate to snowfall? Week 1. I think we're seeing more clipper systems up to the north over top of our ridge of high pressure. Remember, the airflow around high pressure is clockwise, so a lot of this is going to go up and over the United States through Canada and into the northeast. But as we go into week 2, from the 9th through the 15th, we're going to be seeing a lot of that starting to push a little bit further to the south. So the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast are starting to get some more snow. Week 3, we're going to start to see more Ohio Valley to Northeast snowstorms, maybe even mid-Atlantic. And then as we go into the last week, we could potentially even be seeing some southern snow if the colder air is strong enough in the eastern United States. Don't give up hope if you live in Virginia, Tennessee, the Carolinas, or even northern Georgia. Some snow may be possible in the second half of January for folks down there. That's the beauty and the challenge of an active winter pattern. The storms keep coming, and each one brings its own set of possibilities. Now, I want to talk about something that often gets overlooked during major winter storms: community. In Matthew chapter 22, verse 39, Jesus says, "Love your neighbor as yourself." That's not just good theology. That's practical advice for getting through winter storms. Check on your elderly neighbors. Make sure they have heat, food, and medicine. Offer to shovel their driveway. Bring them some groceries if they can't get out. These simple acts of kindness can literally save lives during extreme weather. And if you're one of those elderly neighbors, don't be too proud to accept help. There's no shame in needing assistance. We're all in this together. We're a community, and communities take care of their own. Now, let me give you some practical preparation advice for what's coming. First, if you're in California, especially Southern California, you need to have an evacuation plan ready. If you're in an area prone to flooding or mudslides, know your evacuation route. Know where you're going. Have a bag packed with essentials, medications, important documents, change of clothes, phone charger. Don't wait until an evacuation order is issued. By then, roads might already be flooded. Traffic might be gridlocked. Get out early if you're in a high-risk area. Second, prepare for power outages. Have flashlights and extra batteries. Have a way to charge your phone that doesn't require electricity. A power bank is essential. Have enough non-perishable food and water to last at least 3 days, preferably a week. Third, if you're in the path of the ice storm in the Northeast, understand that ice is more dangerous than snow. Roads become skating rinks. Power lines snap. Tree branches fall. If you don't have to travel on Friday and Saturday, don't. Stay home where it's safe. Fourth, for everyone in the path of the Arctic blast coming for New Year's, make sure your home is ready for extreme cold. Check your heating system. Make sure you have extra blankets. If you have pipes in unheated areas, let faucets drip to prevent freezing. Fifth, never use a generator inside your home or garage. Generators produce carbon monoxide, which is odorless and deadly. Generators must be outside, at least 20 feet from your home, away from windows and doors. Sixth, if you use a fireplace for heat, make sure your chimney is clean and clear. Have plenty of firewood on hand. But remember, most heat from a fireplace goes up the chimney, so it's not the most efficient way to heat your home. Seventh, Keep your gas tank full. Gas stations can't pump gas without electricity. And in winter storms, gas can be hard to find as people stock up. 8th, have cash on hand. ATMs and credit card machines don't work without electricity. Having $100 to $200 in small bills could be crucial if you need to buy supplies or pay for services. Now, as we look at the big picture of what's happening, I want you to understand something important. This is not just a series of random storms. This is a pattern, and patterns can persist for weeks, even months. The jet stream is setting up in a way that favors repeated storms, cold air from Canada, moisture from the Pacific. When you combine those two ingredients, you get winter storms. And when the pattern locks in, you get storm after storm after storm. We saw this in the winter of 2013 to 2014. We saw it in 2010. We saw it in the late 1970 seconds. And each time, it resulted in one of the snowiest, coldest winters on record for large parts of North America. I'm not saying this winter will definitely be like those winters, but the signs are pointing in that direction. The blocking pattern near Greenland, the polar vortex displacement, the cold air building in Western Canada. These are all classic signs of an active, cold winter pattern. So my advice to you is this: don't let your guard down after these storms pass. Stay prepared, stay vigilant, stay informed, because more storms are likely coming. Check weather forecasts daily. Sign up for weather alerts on your phone, follow reliable local weather sources, and use common sense. If conditions look dangerous, don't take unnecessary risks. And through it all, remember who is in control. Psalm 46, verse 1-3 says, "God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth should change, though the mountains shake in the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble with its tumult, even when the storms rage, even when the floods come, even when the cold threatens. God is our refuge and strength. We can prepare with wisdom while trusting in His providence. We can take precautions while resting in His care." Before I let you go, here's what you need to watch for in the coming days. Today, Christmas Eve, California continues to get pounded with heavy rain and heavy snow. Flash flooding is ongoing. This will continue through Christmas Day. Tomorrow, Christmas Day, the atmospheric river continues. 70 to 80 mile-per-hour wind gusts hit Northern California. Whiteout conditions continue in the Sierra Nevada. 12 to 13 feet of additional snow by Saturday morning. Friday, December 26th, ice storm develops across Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. Ice and snow push into Pennsylvania, Maryland, New Jersey. Travel becomes extremely dangerous across the Northeast. Saturday, December 27th, California's storm finally winds down, but the Northeast is still dealing with ice and snow. Sunday through Tuesday, first Arctic blast arrives. Temperatures plummet across the eastern United States. Wednesday, December 30th, through New Year's Day, second, more powerful Arctic blast arrives. Wind-driven snow across the Great Lakes and Northeast, sub-zero wind chills, dangerous cold. And looking into January 2026, the pattern favors continued cold and continued storm chances, especially for the northern United States. The second half of January could even bring snow chances to areas as far south as Virginia, Tennessee, and the Carolinas. In the next video, I'll be breaking down the January pattern in much more detail. I'll show you the specific model runs suggesting multiple winter storms. I'll analyze the polar vortex situation, and I'll give you my thoughts on how long this cold pattern might persist. You won't want to miss it. But for now, focus on the immediate threats. California, you're in the thick of it. Stay safe. Don't drive on flooded roads. Have your evacuation plan ready. Northeast, your ice and snow storm is coming Friday and Saturday. Prepare now, not then. Everyone, the Arctic blast is coming for New Year's. The coldest air of the season so far. Make sure you're ready. Check your heating system. Stock up on supplies. Look out for your neighbors. Have a Merry Christmas. Stay safe. Stay warm. Bundle up. Check on each other. And remember, even in the storm, God is with us. He is our refuge and our strength. Trust in Him, prepare with wisdom, and face these storms with confidence, not fear. I'll see you in the next forecast with more updates on this very active weather pattern. Until then, God bless you and keep you safe through the holidays and always.